Julie Hirigoyen from the Chief Executive of the Green Building Council. Infrastructure carbon review, 2 years old. How is it helping really drive this message about low carbon?
Well, infrastructure is accounting for about 50% plus of our carbon emissions as a nation, and we're trying to reduce those emissions by 80% by 2050. So we absolutely have to tackle the carbon emissions in infrastructure as a major priority.
Those are really big challenges, and we've heard that perhaps it's becoming slightly harder to actually keep driving those down. What do we need to do to keep that momentum going?
In the absence of stronger government regulation and a clearer policy landscape, we absolutely need the industry to lead on this agenda at the moment. Right. Big businesses and small businesses alike will need to push this through their business plans and achieve those emissions reductions at a pace.
But surely it requires leadership from clients to actually set an agenda and say, this is the way you need to think as a supply chain, this is the way you need to work. Do we need that kind of mandating?
Well, absolutely we need the client end of the spectrum to be pushing the standards up through the supply chain. And by the clients, I mean the end users, the investors, the financiers, the developers who are pushing those standards down through the procurement process. That could be being done more systematically and consistently.
There are about 56 companies signed up embracing the infrastructure carbon review, and that's a very, very small part of the whole industry. How do you drill and drive this kind of initiative really deeper into the supply chain?
I think if each of those 56 businesses use their support of the ICR to drive it through their supply chain, they'd be achieving, we could quite quickly get to hundreds, if not thousands, of organisations. I do think we need to be realistic about what we're asking some of those smaller, particularly SME type suppliers to do. They can sign up to a commitment and they can deliver against some of those challenges, but they may not have the resource and capacity to do the same in terms of accreditation and certification as some of the larger organisations.
We're also launching today a new specification, a PAS 2080, to really help the industry to embrace the low carbon, low cost thinking. How will that help? How do you think that would help the supply chain?
I think it's absolutely fundamental for us to get better and more consistent at how we measure and target this stuff. It's pretty complex once you get into it. What are the boundaries? What's the scope? What data? Which emissions? Whose emissions? So driving that consistency through a standard like the PAS, I think is absolutely what's required. We will probably find that initially the small and medium-sized firms are not the ones themselves to get accredited to such a certification standard.
Final bit of advice. What advice do you have for someone in the supply chain in the construction industry to get involved? How do they go about it?
Come and join the UK Green Building Council. Right. Our very existence our very purpose is to support businesses right across the value chain of property and construction to really raise the bar on sustainability. So that would be a good place to start.
Julie, thank you very much.
You're welcome.